just fair. Let's pass the my Senate Bill 90 is really the discrimination in labor and employment. So I'm really thankful for women because we can really get this through if we work really hard, as we do every year. So the Equal Rights bill, I am co-sponsoring that one as well, but my particular bill that I have with a companion bill that Representative Geraldine Thompson has, would allow women, one way that we would not just appreciate them, but it allows women's lives to have a zero wage discrimination. Florida currently has a wage discrimination law on the books, but it is not working as well as it should be. In Florida, women make 85 cents for every dollar earned by men. The annual wage gap there would be about $5,500. It's even worse for women of color compared to white non-Hispanic men. Asian American women make nearly $11,000 less. Native American women make over $15,000 less. Black women and Latino women, they make over $20,000 less. So just with those figures alone, you can see that we are not equal. And it's a shame that we have to fight for equality when it's in black and white that we are not being treated equally, and that this should not be a difficult situation. And I have talked to the committee chairman that have this bill coming up in first committee. I hope he'll hear it. We're pushing him to hear it. We're going to have women up there in Tallahassee also helping us all push for this bill and the ERA bill. We're going to come up there in large numbers to continue this fight and to continue to try to get this bill heard. We need to strengthen the laws that prevent wage discrimination on the basis of sex, and we also need to protect employees who are the victims of wage discrimination from retaliation. Just because we come out and we are in favor of equal pay for equal work, we should not be discriminated against because we make our voices heard. So increasing these penalties for the businesses that encourage wage discrimination is what this bill is all about. So this bill provides for those protections, and so we're going to work again. This will be my third year. I feel like I got this big thing on my back every year and it never goes anywhere, but I'm hoping it will go this year as we continue to fight for our equality. And you know, we have to understand that we need to be heard. We are not heard, so therefore we have to shout and we have to go up there and get in people's faces so that we can have this done. So I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to describe a little bit about the bill, but we will see you in Tallahassee because we are not stopping.
Thank you, Senator Stewart. Next up, we have Angel Perry. She's the Executive Vice President of the CWA Local 3108. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicolette. I sincerely appreciate those that have decided to watch and listen to what we have come here to say today. I am a labor leader. I've been doing this almost all my life, coming from a union family. Workers who have union careers already know that equality and fairness is the core of our values in the labor movement. Due to almost all contracts stipulating a non-discrimination clause, women can apply for careers knowing that they are hired, promoted, and paid on the merit of the work that they perform. The confidence given in having a remedy in place by our labor contracts should something go wrong is immeasurable. But work is only a small part of our daily lives, which is what brings us here today. Now think about your daughters, moms, grandmas, aunts, cousins, and spouses, that best friend that has always been there for you through thick and thin. Outside of the union workforce, we women from birth till we leave this earth fight 1,000,001 battles. The shackles of inequality are heavy. A little girl right now is being sent home from school labeled distracting to boys in her class. There is a father insisting his daughter goes to a gynecologist to prove her virginity to him. A young woman right now is shopping and has no idea that the shaver that she just bought actually costs more than the man's version, just because it's pink. There's a wife applying for a credit card right now who will get an approval for an amount less than her husband with the same credentials. There's a graduate who just was hired at a non-union job, was offered less than her male counterpart. The battles are 1,000,001. These things are a fallout of inequality, often seeming impossible to know where to begin to fix it. Well, if there's one thing I know, it's contracts. And the best thing we have as Americans is the United States Constitution. The 19th Amendment only grants women the right to vote. It does not make us equal. Again, can you look at the girls and the women in your life every day and not take a stand? This is one thing every eligible voter and taxpayer can cry out in one voice. Women are equal.
Yeah! Thank you, Angel, for reminding us that when we fight, we win. Our next speaker is Cynthia Harris. She is a member. She is the Greater Orlando Now Legislative Director and Racial Justice Chair. She is also a candidate for House District 46.
No matter what your job, education, or experience, women still get paid less than men. That means women had to work all of 2018 until today just to catch up with the current salaries of men. As a black woman, we are subjected to occupational segregation. We get paid 61 cents on the dollar right here in the state of Florida. Add that with a bachelor's degree, and it's even less, because employers do not value degrees equally between men and women. We have to work 20 months to equal the 1 year salary of men, white men. Whether deliberate or unconscious, pay us what we are owed. Whether it's not right that single mothers have to work sometimes 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet in order just to catch up. I was that single parent who is educated with a degree, faced with the dilemma of how I can provide a roof over my children's head, still provide sustainability, quality of life for my children, and have the ability to spend time with them and still work. Black women have not been afforded the opportunity of a level playing field. We are less likely to be hired and promoted, but still have to work 3 times as hard as our male counterparts. We can't afford to continue to fall further behind. This is why I stand today with Senator Linda Stewart for SB 90, Fair Pay Protection Act, and Representative Geraldine Thompson's companion bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Next up, we have Sarah Smith. Sarah is a Title IX and disability advocate at Stetson University.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Sarah Smith. I'm a senior social science major with a double minor in gender studies and music at Stetson University, where I also serve as the president of Stetson National Organization for Women, and I work as the prevention and education outreach coordinator for their Title IX department. I am also a part of the disabled community. These unique opportunities and life experiences I've had have positioned me with a deep understanding of the importance and need for an equal rights amendment. Disabled women have long been left out of conversations about gender equality, even with the growing use of an intersectional lens of feminism. This is likely because disability has historically been considered part of the medical sphere, instead of considering the social interactions and relationships disabled people have with our culture, communities, and world in a social science context. But just because we're missing from the material being published and discussions being had doesn't mean we aren't experiencing the sexism. In fact, disabled women are 40% more likely to experience domestic violence than abled people. Keeping that in mind and knowing that about 3 women die every day from domestic violence, disabled women are forced into a game of Russian roulette every time they meet somebody, except there are more bullets than empty chambers. We at the intersection of sexism and ableism are also at the intersection of front lines and forgotten. The space between equality and inequality is where violence against women and marginalized groups happens and where perpetrators get away with it. This space is even bigger for disabled women, and a major step in closing the gap would be to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. This would help protect disabled women from the double discrimination they face in the criminal justice system. Women are often discriminated against in medical science fields, as well as all STEM fields. If women were allowed equitably into these spaces, there would be more answers to questions pertaining to women's health. Did you know that most painkillers are only tested on males, rats, and humans, despite knowing that hormones affect pain receptors? The medications many disabled women depend on for quality of life were not designed for their bodies at all. We were not thought of in that process. And this phenomenon doesn't just apply to painkillers. 2/3 of diseases that affect all genders are studied exclusively in men. We need the ERA.
Yeah.
Every right that women have, we have fought for and demanded. Every right that disabled people have, we have fought for and demanded. Generations of activists have gotten us here today by refusing to be silenced, and we refuse to be silenced. We refuse to accept less than the legal protections we deserve written in the highest law of the land. And I am asking all of us to refuse to forget disabled people. Listen to us the way we wish lawmakers would listen to women. We know what we're saying and we know what we need. And we all need the Equal Rights Amendment.
Thank you, Sarah. Next up, we have Amaris Leone. She's the Program and Communications Director at Rootslift.
Woo! Thank you. To the women behind me, is this the first time we've stood here and demanded the ERA?
No!
Will this be the last time that we stand here and demand the ERA?
No!
Hell no. Some of you have already heard my story, but I'm going to tell it again. I grew up and aged out of the foster care system. I began college living out of my car, and I'm a survivor of sexual assault that took place in a parking lot. I then went on to put myself through college and law school, and most recently passed the DC bar. I now serve as the statewide program director with Rootslift Florida, and I get the privilege to work with female candidates all over the state, helping them build organized progressive campaigns. And believe this or not, I did this all while simultaneously being a woman. So needless to say, I reject this refusal to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, for this is something that would recognize me, along with my cis and transgender brothers and sisters, as a full and equal person under the eyes of the law. You see, the ERA is not simply a women's issue. This is a human rights issue. Patriarchy, gender discrimination, and misogyny negatively impact all of us. As we've seen in the 1975 U.S. Supreme Court case, a man was denied certain benefits to take care of his infant after his wife had passed away because the law stated that that benefit was only for women. Moving to Frontero versus Richardson, a female air officer was denied benefits for her spouse because that law only applied to male service members. You see, the Supreme Court ruled in our favor, and knocking down those two statutes is unconstitutional on the basis of sex discrimination. However, as we have seen time and time again, we are at the mercy of the court, and a Supreme Court decision is only valid until they say it's not. The ERA would help bridge the gaps where history has failed us and take the next generation into a brighter future. The ERA would designate whether we were born with an X or Y chromosome. We were all treated equally under the eyes of the law. So Florida, as we charge into the 2020 legislative session, we need to ask ourselves, what kind of state do we want to be? How do we want to show up on the national stage? And what side of history do we want to be on? And I will tell you right now, the only appropriate answer to those questions is that Florida will be the 38th state to amend the ERA.
Thank you, Amaris. Next up, we have Jessica Ramirez from the Farm Workers Association.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Jessica Ramirez. I'm representing Farm Worker Association of Florida and all the women in our community. Farm worker women do not have rights. The system is created so that women receive less pay. So being a woman, Latin, immigrant, undocumented farm worker means you are facing some of the worst working conditions and the lowest paid. I know a lot of single mothers supporting their children of minimum wage. I have worked as farm worker, housekeeping, and dishwasher, working hard jobs and still earning less than men. When I was a farm worker, I asked my supervisor why only the women were doing planting and packing. My supervisor told me it was because we were faster and produced more, and our wages were less than the men's. A few weeks ago, I spoke with a man who told me that women should be in the house. He said women should be cooking, taking care of the children, and treating their men like a king. I was both saddened and angered that people still think like him in 2019. I thank God because I have a man that thinks like me. He supports me in my house, in my life, and I do the same thing. This is an example of equality. Women have been fighting for their rights for a long time. Only through legislation that calls for equal rights and fair wages, we can move into an equal society.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our next two speakers are fighting the good fight in Tallahassee with Senator Stewart. So next up, we have Representative Geraldine Thompson from House District 44.
Good morning. For more than 5 decades, I've been fighting to create a reality where I would be judged by the content of my character rather than the color of my skin. And that is a dream that was articulated by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we're not quite there yet. The content of my character means that I have worked and sacrificed to be prepared to obtain the education, the qualifications, all of the things that should put me in a position to earn equal pay for equal work. But we're not there yet. I left Miami, where I grew up, in 1970 to move to Tallahassee. And I moved to Tallahassee because I had been employed as a secretary for Gwendolyn Sawyer Cherry. Gwendolyn Sawyer Cherry was the first African American woman to ever be elected to the Florida House of Representatives. And she fought for a seat at the table. She fought for a level playing field. She fought to be heard. She fought to be respected. She fought to be included. And that fight continues today because we're not there yet. People have said that the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. And as you already heard, nobody's ever given us anything. We had to march, we had to protest, we had to sit in, we were beaten, we faced dogs to earn the right to vote. And so we're here today speaking up and speaking out to earn equal pay for equal work and to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. In my work in Tallahassee, I have introduced legislation to outlaw discrimination against pregnant women so that women could create and expand families and maintain a job. I introduced legislation to outlaw female genital mutilation. So we're not there yet in terms of making sure that women are treated equally. We haven't broken the glass ceiling. And Florida is poised to be the state that will mean that we have equal rights here in the United States of America. I am very proud to say that I represent House District 44. I am the first woman to ever represent House District 44. I am the first Democrat to represent House District 44. And I am the first person of color to represent House District 44. And so we've made some progress, but we're not there yet. So what do we want? Equality. Equality. And when do we want it? Now. We want it now. Let's ratify the ERA.
Thank you, Representative. And next up, we have Representative Anna V. Eskamani.
Thank you so much, Nicolette. How's everyone doing today? Welcome to District 47. It is an honor to be here with everyone as we continue to advocate for equal rights for women and girls across this great state. I am proud to serve District 47 in the Florida House. I am Representative Anna V. Eskamani, and today we gather to focus on the equal rights demanded and deserved by women and girls across this great state. And I have to tell y'all, it is great to be a woman in this country, but there are challenging times currently and challenging times ahead of us. Our rights are under attack. Our president is a liar, and Tallahassee continues to be dominated by one party that stands in opposition to many of the values and issues that we are talking about today. Issues that I know here in Central Florida we care deeply about. And that includes reproductive justice, equal work for equal pay, sexual assault prevention, domestic violence prevention, LGBTQ+ equality, immigrant rights, and of course the Equal Rights Amendment. So why does the ERA matter? It matters because healthcare disparities along gender lines exist, just like financial disparities exist. It matters because women of color face multiple barriers to advancement in the workplace. As we already talked about today, the gender gap is real, with women in 2019 making only 79 cents for every dollar our male counterparts make. And this not only impacts our ability to pay our bills on time, but impacts our ability to pay our loans, to build wealth, to buy a home, and it also impacts what taxes we pay and don't pay. So equal work for equal pay has a reflective impact on all parts of our life. The ERA also matters because abortion should always be safe and legal, and decisions around my pregnancy are private and should be made between the person, their family, their doctor, and their faith, and not politicians. And the ERA sets that standard of equality for all. It also matters because of Me Too and Time's Up. We must build a world free of sexual assault and harassment, one where women and girls can live in peace. And the ERA ensures equality for all. It matters because no human is illegal, and undocumented families, including undocumented women, have rights. Yeah. It matters because white supremacy is a problem, and the ERA verifies inequities along gender lines exist, creating a proactive framework for more equity. So it's not just about women and girls, but it reflects alongside our trans and gender diverse individuals, it reflects to the undocumented, it reflects to those with disabilities. The ERA sets the framework that others will follow. This work is intersectional, and for many women, we are pissed. Am I right? Yes. But I will say that the rage we hold against the oppression we have faced does not match the love we have for this community and the love we have for this state. And that's why we come here today to advocate for Senator Stewart's legislation alongside Representative Geraldine Thompson's legislation, as why we're here to demand the ratification of Florida to join that effort for the ERA. And it's why we care deeply about not just the 2020 session, but of course the 2020 election cycle. And with that, I encourage everyone who is watching, folks who are here with us today, to continue the fight and know that every Floridian, but especially the lives of Floridians' women, of Florida's women, are on the line. So let's make it count. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. Going into our legislative session,
for being here today. I appreciate all of these powerful advocates and legislators right here. Some have come from far away. We have my Georgia sister right over here from Georgia Now. And I just got back from Virginia right before the election. So I've got a message. Get on it right now, legislators in Florida, or you're going to be left behind. Virginia is set to go. They are going forward with the ERA in January if we don't get on it first. And you know why? Because we were on the ground and we made a difference. We made sure to make their election about the ERA and about equality. And we flipped the leadership in the House and the Senate. And we're gonna do it here too. If people are not getting on the ERA and stand for equality for women, we have a problem right now in our leadership. They don't see the discrimination. Senator Stewart says, why do women need equality? Aren't they more equal? And the answer is no. And Bob Rommel is sitting on the House Judiciary Committee that's holding back the ERA, and he says, Senator Simmons is in the Senate, and he's holding us back and has refused to hear the ERA. Can you hear us now? We demand the ERA be given a hearing in the committee. And it has not been heard properly this entire century in Florida. And in the House, Representative Bob Rommel has been holding it back. He also doesn't have a clue why women need equality because he pays his staff at the restaurant just as much, regardless of gender. And what I can say is we have a problem. It's called unconscious bias. They don't see what they can't see. So they need to trust women or data. You can look at our money. You've already heard the results. All you have to do is listen to your legislators. They have been sent thousands of postcards. We've had hundreds of opportunities to call them and talk to them and let them know that we demand equality here in Florida. I'm tired of our legislators having to fight for bill after bill, year after year, like last year's Dignity for Incarcerated Women to provide basic sanitary products for women. And this year, we're having to do that for public school. Why? Because we don't have the ERA. If we had the ERA, it would be as simple as, do we provide basic sanitary supplies for our students or our inmates or not? So we're fed up. The time is up, and we are ready to ratify the ERA and to pass equal pay and really have equality and take Florida into the new century. So thank you to my sisters and other folks who are allies here to support us. And if you notice, there's predominantly women in the background. We need our male allies to come on up and step up too, because equality and inequality affects all of us. So while you're home, especially Senator Simmons, when you're spending time with your daughters and granddaughters over Thanksgiving, I want you to be able to look at them and tell them you're going to support the ERA. Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes our event today. If you have any questions for any of the speakers, we will all be available for questions from the press. Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, Queen. Hey. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hi, Angel. I took some photos of you. I'll send them to you.